These are the top 10 biggest Shopify dropshipping mistakes that you can possibly make in 2021 if you do not watch this video. Hey, it's the ECOM king known as Camille Sator, and I'm going to be breaking down the biggest, most common mistakes that I can see beginners making in 2021. Now, when I started my journey 4 years ago, since then I've been able to achieve multiple 7 figures. I wish I knew these things before I got started, because number one, it's going to save you lots of time, and number two, it's going to save you so much money. And the other thing that's really important is it's going to help you get ahead of the majority of people that actually start a Shopify dropshipping business. So the biggest common mistakes that I'm going to be covering today is number one, not taking the business model seriously. Number two, not networking with suppliers and negotiating. Number three, not having an actual solid game plan. Number four, product research myths that you get told. Number five, managing your cash flow and money. Number six, not doing proper market research. Number seven, not knowing how the Facebook brain actually works. Number eight, not knowing your numbers and KPIs. Number nine, not testing the waters. And finally, finishing off, not knowing when to call it a day with certain stores and certain products. Now, make sure if you appreciate the value that I'm giving you guys, smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, and turn on the post notifications. So let's dive straight into the first biggest common mistake that dropshippers will make this year, which is not taking the business model Shopify dropshipping or dropshipping seriously. Now, because this is an online business that requires a small amount of cash flow to start compared to most traditional businesses that require $30,000 to $50,000, this one can require around about $1,000 to $2,000 to get started at a good rate. That means that you guys may not take it seriously because it doesn't have an upfront cost that is big compared to more traditional businesses. Now, do not get that mixed up. Because you're not putting as much money up front doesn't mean that you can't make as much back. Now, these are the facts that are known. Now, most businesses, most traditional businesses take around about 3 to 5 years to make an ROI, return on investment. Now, with an e-commerce online business like dropshipping, you can make your return on investment within a month, 2 months, 3 months, but do bear in mind this is a long-term game. Now, another reason why people don't take this business model serious is because they do not go out there and get what they need, like a corporation, an LTD, an LLC. That is very, very important. Not putting money or effort into their website, not investing in a good product, not investing enough money into the marketing. Because this is such an easy business to get started in, you guys do not take it seriously enough. And if you approach the mindset into dropshipping that, oh, it's only a couple of $1,000, if I lose it, I can get on with it, it's not going to hurt my bank account. You cannot have that mindset coming into dropshipping. This is a serious business. E-commerce is bigger than traditional businesses. Look at the time that we're currently in with the global pandemic. E-commerce is keeping the economy going. E-commerce is blasting everything out of the waters, guys. Please take this business model seriously. So if you go and watch my free course, everything that I tell you to do in that video, make sure you do it. Don't say, oh, it's going to cost me $200 to set up a corporation, let's skip that part. Do not do that. Take every single little part of the variables inside of this business model serious, because if you don't, it will not treat you. If you want to get paid like a professional, you must act like a professional. That's what I always say to people. So the second biggest mistake that I can see happening is not networking with suppliers and not negotiating with them. So what I mean by this is when you go to choose a supplier to pick your products, you're going to want to make sure that you network with the suppliers, because there's going to be way more than one supplier that's selling the product that you want. And the key is to speak to every single supplier that has a good rating, has some good reviews, and it's good to speak to every single one of them and try and reach an agreement that you're both happy with. So with dropshipping, the long-term game is to eventually brand the product or get your logo on the products. So you need to try and find a supplier that's willing to do that in the long term. And it's important that you try and find a supplier that you can network with. You've got good response times. You can speak to them on multiple platforms. Ideally, you want to be speaking to them on WhatsApp or WeChat. They're the best two, in my opinion. You want to try and work out a lot about them. You really want to get to know them, because you got to remember, guys, you're going to be pumping a lot of money into them. You want to know who you're working with, how many are there. And the other great thing about networking opportunities are, like things like now, like Chinese New Year, you're going to be able to get good delivery times during those periods of times if you build good networks. Now, you got to remember, guys, your network is your net worth. It's very, very important. Now, your supplier might know somebody that could help you out in the future with another project that you've got going on. So there's a lot of suppliers that I've worked with in the past. I reach out to them and say, look, do Do you know somebody in your network, like an agent, that might be able to find this product for me because I'm struggling to find it? If you've got a good relationship with them, they're going to go out there and help you. Now, another good thing about having a good network and a good relationship with these suppliers is you can negotiate with them. The key to success is by negotiation. Negotiation is going to save you a lot of money, and it's going to give you certain rewards in return. So what I mean by certain rewards in return is you could basically make a deal like, you know what, if we get you 100 sales a month, you've got to cut everybody else off. That is something that we commonly do with our own businesses. The great thing about this is it's going to kill out all your competition selling the same product as you. Now, we currently sell a notebook where the supplier wants us to sell 200 a month, and as long as we do that, he'll cut everybody else off. You can also do something what we call a stock reward, where if you sell a certain amount of stock within a certain amount of time, you can get a discount on your stock levels. Other things is you might be able to get exclusive rights to actually brand that product. Now, if that supplier is the owner of the product, they could give you the rights to actually go out there and brand it and build something with that product, which is very, very important for longing in the last, which is really important if you want to last long in this business model. Now, networking doesn't just come to suppliers, it comes to absolutely everything. I've been in the game for 4 years, and within that time of the game, I've been able to build some great networks with people inside of Stripe, people inside of PayPal. I've been able to build very good relationships with Oberlo. I've been able to build some really good relationships with things that I use every single day. And what that gives me is a very good customer support. It lets people know that when I come to that company, they know that they need to treat me with some good respect because I've given them respect in return. So networking isn't just with suppliers, it's with anything else that you do around that, but you must make sure that when you're contacting companies related to your business, whether it be VAs, whether it be softwares, you need to make sure that when you're speaking to them, even if it's in a bad situation, try and build a relationship with them. Let them know that you want to build a relationship. A lot of people just use it but not build a relationship. If you build a relationship, trust me when I say this, you're gonna have such a better arrangement than everybody else. If somebody's got a problem, you're probably going to get that problem sorted quicker because you know somebody that's in the inside that can get to you quicker. So trust me when I say this, from my last 4 years, being on top of the relationships really does pay off. It really, really does. So I'm going to give you a really good example and a real life example of what I've done in the past to build relationships up with important parts of your network. So for example, when I've had issues with PayPal holds, which you're going to get regardless of what you do, every time I call up PayPal, I always say I want to speak to the same person again and again and again and again. And I've actually made them my kind of like account manager now. You can't technically get one of those, but I've technically made him my own by saying, look, I want to keep speaking to the same person because they know the history of my business. If you keep speaking to different people, they don't know what your business is about. So by being able to speak to the same person over and over again is going to help. And how I've been able to do that is by calling up, asking for the same person. And when they ask me for why do I want to speak to that person, I say, well, look, he's dealt with me all the time. And I'd rather wait 2 days for that person to get in contact with me than get speaking to someone straight away, because I know that person's going to be able to sort me out quicker than anybody else because they know what's going on with my business. So that's a very good example and a real life example of how you can build very good relationships in your network. So the third biggest mistake that I can see dropshippers making in 2021 is not having a solid game plan inside out. So when you go to pick a product, do you know what you're going to be doing with that product throughout the end of the year? Do you know what your end goal is? Do you want a private label? Do you want to sell the business? Because there's some products that I know when I get involved in them, I'm going to flip them in 6 months. I'm going to build them up to 6 figures, 7 figures, flip the store and sell it and make a nice profit. Some stores, I have a different view on it. I try and build them up and then I will sell them as an asset later on, let's say after 5 years, but I want to go down the private labeling route. When you have that game plan in place, you know what you want to do. Let's say, for example, I want to sell some yoga mats and I want to do it for a long time. Do I know who my agent is going to be? Do I know who my supplier is going to be? Do I kind of know the branding route that I want to go down? Do I know what countries that I want to make my main country market? You really need to know when you pick a product, what is your game plan? Although a lot of products can flop and fail, you still need a solid game plan in place, because trust me when I say this, if you're running paid ads on Facebook like I teach in the free course, you could get to some crazy places pretty quick if it goes well. I've known somebody that's been able to flip their store within 7 figures within a month. Now that happened because of aggressive scaling. Now if you don't have a game plan in place, then you're really going to struggle to basically solidify what you're trying to do. So trust me when I say that, do not underestimate the process of this business. If your plan is to get down the branding route and you haven't figured out yet how you're going to do it, and then you test the product and you kind of get to a position where you can start branding it, you're in a very bad place. So guys, please, when you pick a product, have a solid game plan in place or your product will flop. So the fourth biggest mistake that I can see dropshippers making in 2021 is trying to find the perfect product research method. Now, there's no such thing as the perfect product or the perfect product research tactic. It doesn't matter what you do. The only time you're ever going to know if a product's going to do well is when you put it on an advertisement and you spend between $300 and $500. Because trust me when I say this, paid traffic is completely different to any other traffic, like organic traffic. Now, I've got a brand called Solitown. You can see it in the back here, where organic traffic, certain countries, certain stuff do really, really well. But then when we start running paid ads, they do completely different. So stock that we would sell organically wouldn't sell on paid, and vice versa. So what I'm trying to say is you'll never know what will do well till you start running paid ads for it. Now, you need to be spending, like I said, between $300 and $500 to identify if that product is worth pursuing. But do not get caught up in the mindset of my product research not good enough, my product's not good enough, X, Y, and Z. As long as you follow the free course and the product research tools and methods, then you are good to go. You need to understand, guys, that most times the products that you think will do well don't do well. The ones that don't do, that you think won't do well, end up doing well. And that's been pretty much my life story during my process in dropshipping. Now, another thing that a lot of people do is they do the exact same for their website. They feel like their website's not good enough, they're missing things on their website, but really what they're trying to do is avoid the step that's next in their journey. So after you've got your website, after you've got your product, then it's about running the ads for it. And a lot of people will try and avoid doing that by saying the product's not good enough or the website's not good enough. So you're prolonging your journey, and by doing that, you're letting your competitors get ahead of you, and you're going to end up losing lots of money. So always think that there's somebody out there trying to beat you at what you're doing. So as long as you keep prolonging your process, you're going to let them win. And that's what I always say to myself. It doesn't mean rush, but it means always keep an eye on how long you're spending on doing certain tasks. So the fifth biggest mistake that I can see dropshippers making is not knowing how to manage their money, not knowing how to manage cash flow. Now, if you come from a corporate world, it's hard to understand how to manage business cash flow because you're only used to getting paid a salary, and obviously you pay your bills and whatnot. But managing a business cash flow is completely different to actually paying for bills and whatnot in your normal life. Now, the key is in businesses to let money keep running through. Let money keep running and running and running. If money stops, there's an issue. That is something that you need to understand. So if you're starting a dropshipping business and you work a job, you need to make sure you are working a job, because if you're just starting dropshipping and you've got like $2,000 ready to invest and that's it, then there's a problem because there's not money circulating. So you need to always make sure that you've got money circulating somehow, because if you don't, you are going to hit a brick wall at the wrong time that could really, really hurt you. Now, the next thing is you need to make sure that you understand that your payment gateways could take up to 21 days if you're a beginner to pay out. So let's say you make $300 in sales, that might not get paid out into your actual bank account till 21 days if you're a beginner and you have no history with PayPal. Now, Shopify payments can take between 3 and 7 days or on the same day depending on where you live. So just understand that when you jump into this business that you will have to wait for payments to get into your account. So what are you going to do in the meantime to be able to pay for what you need to pay for? Now, some things that a lot of people do, like myself, is we have charge cards, and the best charge card that I recommend is in the description, so go check it out because you will get exclusive benefits with that link. So when you're spending lots of money on ads, this is where the issue really does amplify, because when you're spending lots of money on ads, you're hoping that you're making a lot of money. Normally when you're doing that, you're doing 6 figures. Now with payment gateways, when you get into that territory of making 6 figures, they're going to hold the money. It doesn't matter, because they want to make sure that the money is clean money, basically. They want to make sure that the money has proof in terms of where it's coming from, and that can take time. Now, if PayPal put you on a 60, 90-day hold, 180-day hold, then, or they might drip feed you the money. They might slowly start releasing the money, which is what they tend to do with most people like myself. Now, if that is the case, this is where you're going to have the biggest problem. Now, if you are having this problem, you need to contact your credit cards, your charge card companies. You may need to get something like a PayPal business loan, and you may need to drip feed some cash flow into your company. As long as you know the money's going to come in, you need to find a way of managing that right now. And again, the best way of doing it is by contacting. Now, something else you can do is you can contact your payment gateways and let them know know that you need the money to pay for stock. If not, you could possibly damage your business. So it's very, very important. Again, number one, you have that network, because remember, if you've got payment problems, you can get a lot better resolutions if you've got something in place like a good networking relationship. But guys, remember, cash flow is going to be a big issue for your e-commerce business. I know people that have had to sell their fancy cars like Rolls Royces, Ferraris. I know people that have had to sell them last year Q4 just to pay for stock. So it is not a joke, guys. Make sure you get your finances in place, have an Excel sheet, use an app like Counterfy, and really do make sure you know exactly how much is going in, going out, pending, whatnot, because if you don't, you could literally kill your business. You could be doing 6 figures, and because you messed up with the cash flow, you might have to scale it completely down. Never gets back to where it was. You've just killed your own business. So guys, really do pay attention on your numbers. So the 6 biggest mistakes that I can see dropshippers making in 2021 is not doing market research. Now, although you find a great product, if you've not done market research and you get too excited and you get straight onto making the website, straight onto doing the ads, and you just get really excited and straight into it, then you can lose lots of money. Now, every time that I pick a product, I always do market research. Who could my potential audience be? What brands do they follow? What brands do they like? What companies may they have bought off in the past? What kind of age range could they possibly be? What kind of countries are my audience majority in? Now, you can find a lot of this information on the Facebook interests intelligence tool, which I'll leave in the description if you're looking for brands that they may also like. You can find this on Statistica, which is an actual market research and website where they do the audience research for you, where they'll find out. So if you type in something like the top 10 gaming countries, it will tell you the countries on Statistica that are the top 10 in that niche. Now, if you already find out this market research, when it comes on to doing your Facebook ads or any form of ad platform, you're going to know which age range to pick. You're going to know what countries will do better, and then that way you're going to be more lasered into your audience. The amount of people that I know that just skip this part and just guess and lose lots of money, then say the product didn't work or it's a waste of time. It's not that, it's just you didn't know what you were doing in the first place. Now, I always suggest to people that, look, it's better to know the audience that you're trying to sell to than it is being blinded by it. So I always suggest that you go for products that you have some form of knowledge in, because that way you kind of know who your audience is going to be roughly. Let's say, for example, when I first got into the beauty niche, I had no idea about the beauty niche. I'm a man, I don't own any beauty products apart from skincare. So apart from that, I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't know what the biggest brands are. I don't know what the kind of people that buy them. I don't know what age range they are. I don't know what countries they are. But if you're somebody that's part of that audience anyway, you know how they speak, you know the slang they use, you know how they like to be addressed, you know what kind of imagery will attract them. I don't. So you have to do research and say, well, look, I'm going into a market that I have no idea about. Let me try and educate myself on it. And even if you test a product in an audience research that you have no idea about and it doesn't work, at least if you try and go into that industry again, you're already prepared for it. So I can't emphasize this enough. Do your market research before you even get into making your website after you've picked the product. So the 7th biggest mistake that I know beginners are going to make this year, because they do it every year, is not knowing how the Facebook ad brain works. Now, Facebook ads is by far the biggest advertisement platform, and I can still see it being the biggest one, and it's the one that I will still use this year the majority of. Now, the Facebook ad platform is by far the most volatile platform in the industry. Google ads is very stable, YouTube ads is very stable, but Facebook ads isn't. And that's because of the way the algorithm works. And if you do not educate yourself on how Facebook algorithm works, how it makes decisions, what kind of AI technology does it look for, then you're going to get yourself into some very deep problems like ad account bans, because you don't know the policies, you don't know what Facebook brain likes and doesn't like. So please, guys, educate yourself on any advertisement platform you go into. YouTube ads, Google ads, you need to know the policies, you need to know what kind of AI technology they use, you need to know what decisions that are based on, how many times they use human review, because a lot of these companies want to automate the process by using AI. Now, AI is never always right, it's going to make mistakes, but then they also use humans to make sure that the AI is doing their job properly. So you need to make sure that you understand every single little thing down to a T, because if you don't, you're going to get hit with something that you have no idea about and you're gonna be like, whoa, what's this? And then you're gonna freak out. But if you educate yourself, then you're gonna be like, okay, this has come up, I kind of knew this was gonna kind of come up, and I know how to address this problem. For example, if my ad account gets banned, I know what procedures I need to do. I know what I need to submit to Facebook. I know the response time that's gonna take. But before that even becomes a problem, I know how to prep before that happens to try and avoid it. But I can't emphasize this enough. You're probably gonna get an ad account ban. You could potentially get a page ban, but you've got to know what to do before it to prevent it and what to do after to maintain it. That is the key. Not just that, but you need to understand how Facebook works, how much you should be spending, how to monitor your ads, because the amount of people that I get on calls with, that I hear say they've lost so much money, and that's because they don't know how it works and they don't know how much they should be spending. So really, when you watch this, guys, know your advertisement platforms inside out. Find one person that you feel like you can trust, learn from, read as many articles from the actual platform themselves, because they do give you loads, and make sure you know what you're doing. So the 8th biggest mistake that I can see beginners making this year is not knowing their numbers. Now, I am not a numbers person. I'm dyslexic. I hate looking at numbers, but I have to make sure I know my numbers. How much am I spending in advertisements? How much is my product costing me when I buy it from my supplier? If you do not know your numbers, you are heading down into a very dark path, because if you don't know how much it's going to cost you to acquire a customer, there's a big problem. That's what we call cost per result. So if you don't know what your CPRs are and you don't know how much it's going to cost you to make profit, then you're going to be in a very scary path. You need to know how much your taxes are going to be, your import taxes, your corporation taxes. You need to know how much it's going to cost you to get your products, how to ship them. You need to know every single price, VAT, so value added tax. You need to know everything. While I'm not an accountant, but I have made a video on my e-commerce agency channel talking about taxes, so go check that out. But you need to know everything before you even get inside the game, because you need to know what country you're living in, what are the taxes like. You need to know how much is my supplier costing me to buy the product, how much is it going to cost me to ship the product. You really need to know your numbers, your KPIs, because if you don't, trust me when I'm saying this, you may think you're making money, but then when your accountant does it all for you and he tells you, well, look, mate, you've not made that much money this year, you're going to be crying because it's not looking very good. And again, you could be blowing your wallet without even knowing so. Now, there are some very good softwares like Xero, Accountify, TaxJar that can work out your KPIs. There's also some really good free Excel sheets online that you can use to work out your numbers. But guys, if you don't like numbers, hire somebody that is good looking at numbers. If you can't afford to do that, you're gonna have to learn to get good at looking at numbers. Now, me personally, I hate numbers. I failed maths, dyslexic, so that's not good for me. But I had to learn how to do it because I couldn't afford to pay for an accountant when I first started. So really, before you get started, guys, know your numbers, know how to do them. And again, everything is being taught in the free Shopify Dropshipping course, so go check that out. So the 9th biggest mistake that I can see beginners making this year is not testing loads of different things out and not testing the water out. So basically what I'm saying is the reason why most people fail in e-commerce and dropshipping is because they don't test anything new out. They just stick to the same old that what everybody else is doing, and they wonder why they fail. If you're going to do what everybody else is doing, you're going to get the same results as what they're going to be getting. So you need to make sure that you're testing things out. Now, for example, I will take a very saturated product but run a totally different marketing angle, meaning how I'm addressing it to people with that product, and that's why normally I can turn an old winner into a new winner, because I'm testing things out that the old person didn't do with that product to see if I can pull anything else out of it. So you need to always make sure that you're testing loads of new things out. Now, something else that I'm testing out, which I'm going to give you guys an insight on before I release the video, is I'm testing out a lot of AI technology, a lot of AR, artificial reality, on my websites. Now, the reason why I'm doing this is because of the global pandemic, for example, the UK is in lockdown roughly till April, which is around about 3 to 4 months. People are going to be able to go into short stores and see what they're buying. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to recreate a store format on my website, so when people go to my website, they can see the product virtually in their room, so they can see what it's going to look like without actually having to go to the store. So that's something that I'm testing out. That's something that's going to cost me a lot of money and has cost me a lot of money, but it means that I'm going to be a lot more advanced than the majority of my competitors, because I don't really know any dropshipper that does AR technology on their websites. There's a couple of e-commerce brands that I know, but there's not many dropshippers that I know. Straight away, that puts me straight into the 1% of dropshippers that are taking it to the next level. And you've always got to be testing new things out. You've always got to be innovating, especially if you're making money, guys. You need to be reinvesting the profits into testing things and trying to innovate your whole story and brand. For example, if you've only ever used Facebook ads before, try using YouTube ads this year. If you've always used YouTube ads before, use Google ads or use Facebook ads. Try something new. Again, if you do YouTube ads, there's about 5% of dropshippers that are doing YouTube ads. Straight away, you've literally took your saturation all the way down. You've always got to be testing new things out. I'm trying to learn Bing ads. I've been horrible at your Google ads. I'm pretty good. I'm not the best. I won't call myself an expert, but I'm trying to learn Bing ads because I know they're going to be one of the biggest competitors to Google ads very, very soon. So the 10th biggest mistake that I can see dropshippers making this year, and they always do this, is they don't know when to call it a day with products or a store. So for example, I've got a store that's done around about $200,000 in revenue, and it's a partnership store with one of my friends, and he's become very attached to the product, and we both know deep down that this store is done. There's nothing more we can get out of it. We might as well just sell it. But he's got that attached to it, he doesn't want to sell it. But me on the other hand, I know that it's done. We can't do anything more with it. We've tried putting more money into it and it's just wasted our money. But that's the thing, you got to try and learn not to get attached to your stores, to your products. If it's not working out and you've done everything a professional's told you to do and you've met the kind of buying points, then you just need to learn to say, look, I'm pulling myself out of the place, I'm putting myself into a new one. Because we've got to understand that if you keep doing the same thing again and again, that's called insanity. Nothing's going to change. So you need to know when to call it a day. You need to know when to move on, and you need to know what requirements to look at before moving on. And again, all those requirements that I personally look at before I move on are in my free course that will be in the description and in the cards. But I can't emphasize this enough, guys. If you don't learn when to move on, you are going to damage yourself. It's like, for example, a relationship. A lot of toxic relationships are in place. Now, a very good example of this is relationships. Somebody could be with their partner, they've been together for, let's say, 3-4 years, but it's a toxic relationship. If you stay in it and you know it's toxic, it's just going to damage it more. It's going to damage the person more. So you need to learn to say, look, it's over, I need to move on or take a break. But if you carry on, it's just going to make things worse. So guys, please make sure you know when to pull out, because if you don't, you're going to have a big issue. So guys, those are my top 10 biggest mistakes that you could possibly make this year. Let me know what you thought in the comment section below, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.